Hello, welcome to the first show of 2023 for GB Boxing and Fighting Irish. And unlike everyone else who was kind of a bit previous with their show, with their boxing awards for 2022, by having them in late 2022, we said we'd wait till the year's fully over to
Yep.
fully acknowledge the year. And with me today is Adam. Michael may be on later, and Luke cannot be with us this evening, but Adam has his picks, I do believe.
Yep. I do
Great.
indeed.
So let's plow on ahead. What way do you want to work this? Do you want to work backwards, forwards?
Let's go. Shall we do the good stuff at the end? We'll save it to the
Yes.
end.
Keep people,
Keep people
hanging
keen.
on.
So what do you want to start with then?
Well, prospect of the year, I suppose, would be
would be the place to go.
natural first one.
So we have kind of spread these reasonably wide, and then some of us have cut them backwards. So the idea is we're going to do a domestic and international award, and we are where some of the awards are necessary. We're going to split male and female, and some of the awards we won't, and it will just depend. So I've got some wide across, and we've got Luke's. So my international prospect of the year is Keyshawn Davis. I think it's important to define prospects, and I think no title fights, no 12 rounders, nothing like that. And I think that is generally quite a good way to do what a prospect is. And I think it's very easy to start talking about contenders. Like I'm sure last year people were still talking about Boots Ennis. There was 27-0 fighting world title eliminators as a prospect, and he just wasn't. So I think Keyshawn is the best of the Americans, the best all round of the Americans coming through. I think he's a fabulous fighter, and Luke agrees with me because he's got Keyshawn down as the best up and coming prospect as well internationally.
Unsurprisingly, I would agree with you. My international prospect last year was Xander Zayas. And can he still be called a prospect? I know he was kind of top rank. We're including him, but I don't think he toppled Keyshawn if he was still included. But I still think Xander is definitely
fabulous.
A gold medal whatever he is, second year fighter, next year fighter. But
he's still very young.
So yeah, Keyshawn absolutely gets it hands down. So that's easy enough.
That was an easy enough one. So I went ahead and did an international one because I can't talk about this international female one as well. And it's Beatriz Ferreira, who's the Brazilian silver medalist from the last Olympic cycle, who lost to the Irish lady whose name escapes me, much for my sins, that won the gold.
Oh well, if it was won the gold, it's Kelly Harrington.
It would be So I think she lost to her in the final. Beatriz Ferreira is an absolute monster and is the most entertaining female fighter. She's unbelievable, and I would recommend everybody. She's on the Matchroom shows. I'm sure she's on the first international Matchroom show of the year, and she's fantastic. And she'll win world titles. And her versus Caroline Dubois is the next super fight, the next Shields Marshall, the next Taylor Serrano. That's the one they'll build towards. She's an unbelievable fighter.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do international female prospect. Sorry, I didn't have that on my card.
That's all right. No one else did. I think it was the only one.
But domestic female prospect, then I suppose. I think this is unanimous.
This will be unanimous, yes. I had Caroline Dubois.
Yes, it was Caroline Dubois. And I think under Shane McGuigan, she's just improved so much. I mean, I thought she turned over a bit early, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I mean, like her progress has been phenomenal under Shane. So Caroline definitely gets my shot for domestic.
Unanimous. I don't know what Michael says, but Luke agrees as well. Luke's got Caroline as there. I think it's quite clear. There's there's Lauren Price. There's so I think he's out. So I don't think we're getting Michael.
Oh, okay.
So I've just outed him on the internet, so my bad. So I don't think it would just be us.
Well, that's okay. Michael can drop his in the comments. We can give our a domestic male prospect, and then I'm going to put up what Stephen said because I don't want to preempt this. Not that I think it's going to be any different.
No, it's Azim. It's Adam Azim.
It has to be.
Caroline and Adam Azim are the two most incredible prospects we have in this country, and they just happen to come from Shane McGuigan's gym. They're just brilliant.
Yes,
The pair of
and
them
they're both going to be on Sky, which I think is very good for both of them.
Yeah.
When you look at the situation with the other promotion companies and where they are, and if you want to be promoted, if you want to get your name out there, I think being on Sky Sports is the best way to go.
Yeah.
You know, because you're across all their platforms, you're across all their kind of promotional shows, across all the sports. You see it with their Chris Eubank and Smith previews. Like, you're on everything. You know, you're on Monday Night Football, you're on Soccer Saturday, you're probably on the cricket, but I don't watch cricket. You know what I mean? It's everywhere. And if you're a prospect, the best place to be, in my opinion, is, you know, under the Sky Sports banner, because you get a lot more out there and you get a lot more recognition, and the cross promotional selling is unparalleled. So absolutely, Adam Azim. So we're going to go with what Stephen said now, and controversially, he agrees with you and with me, and we all agree together.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, we got a message from a nameless individual who basically suggested that we should try and disagree a bit more to make this moderately more entertaining for the viewers that do spend their time, their hard-earned time watching this. Clearly, we've started well this year.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to really. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with you there. It has to be Adam Azim and Caroline Dubois as domestic. Yeah. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. You're out of order. Oh wait, we've all agreed. Oops.
We've all agreed. We've all picked the same. I think it's there's lots of good prospects across there, and I think the Olympians, Pat McCormack, things like that, they're all very good. But the ones that I'm excited about particularly are Azim and
Dubois.
There. Oh, actually, I take it back. Luke has picked somebody else.
Go on, Luke.
Luke has picked Dalton Smith, who I think is the only other thing. Now, I will say,
is he too far on to be a prospect?
This is my argument. Dalton Smith is a defending British champion, and in my view,
he's a British champion. He can't be called a prospect.
So I'm afraid, Luke, when you're not here to defend yourself and you're away training harder than we are, I think it's Azim, because I think
that's a yellow card there for Luke now.
Yeah,
you know. I think maybe he was trying to spice things up.
Yeah, make it a little bit more difficult to disagree on. So yes, so that's where we are. So his international male prospect was Robney. He's got two here, which very much confuses me. So he's got domestic male prospect, which is Dalton Smith. Then he's got international male, which is Ramirez, which I assume is the Cuban.
Rabese Ramirez, yeah.
Rabese Ramirez, and then at the bottom he's got prospect, which is Keyshawn Davis. So it's really throwing me off here.
But I suppose Rabese a little further on than Keyshawn?
Rabese is a contender, I would say, at this stage.
Yeah, like he's the same level as Dalton Smith would be over here. So I put him beyond prospect at this stage. So that's how we'll separate that. But there's actually no award for that thing.
Who's your contender of the year? No, I've actually got something I'll ask you at the end, with something that ID Boxing did. So if I forget, try and remind me. But yes, moving on from prospects.
Yes. Now, when I'm doing it in reverse, KO of the year appears.
Is that what you've got here?
Yeah. What have you got?
So my next one is trainer.
Well, yeah. Well, let's do trainer. So because I think KO should be higher up.
I think KO should be higher up as well. So who's your trainer of the year?
Well, my trainer of the year, I mean, like, I was kind of going, really, should I be giving it to him this year? And I think no. But with what he's done with his people, and I mean, am I biased? I don't know, but it's Shane McGuigan. With Caroline Dubois, with Chris Billam-Smith. I know things aren't great with Lawrence Okoli at the moment. I think, I was reading there, but last year things were really good, and anything that Shane touched generally improved, like all of his fighters came out looking better from being with Shane. Other trainers, had differing kind of results, but I thought Shane was always on the plus side with his fighters, and they were improving, and that's why Shane took it for me. Now I am open to say, well, that's just an Irish bias, and so be it. If it is, it's an unintentional one, but that's who my trainer of the year is.
So Luke has Grant Smith. I mean, I think that's a very fair shout. I think Sonny Edwards was very good last year. I thought Dalton Smith was very good, and I know he's got a number of other fighters. And I'm just getting back into boxing after the break of the new year. Everything has left my head.
Absolutely, I'm the same.
So I was going through this. I was going on BoxRec, and I was like, "What actually happened last year?" So we were like going down through it. So I think Grant Smith is a really good shout. I think he's a fantastic trainer, one of the best we've got. And again, he's another one. They all seem to be getting better and better. But I also have Shane McGuigan as my trainer of the year. Shane had 25 wins from 25 fights last year.
There you go. Can't ask better than that.
And then the man who I think is going to get the international trainer of the year, like the ring and the big titles, has just picked up a rather interesting new pupil, which is Derek James, who I think had the best year all round, with Charlo winning the undisputed title at 154 and Errol Spence winning 3 belts against Ordenis Ugas. Not an active year for anybody.
No, it was a pretty sparse year in terms of picking it up. But I mean, it seems to be unanimous across the board that Derek James gets it. He has mine as well. And sorry, I really apologize to Michael here, but he's not here to disagree with us. And Stephen has, of course, come up with the same thing. I'm wondering, is it hive mind mentality at this point?
This is a problem, yeah.
But I wouldn't say that. And why I wouldn't say that is because, as we said, 2022 even, hasn't been a stellar year boxing wise. So it's kind of like there isn't slim pickings to pick from. But what is there is obvious. And what is obvious is Derek James was International Fighter of the Year, and Shane McGuigan for us. Obviously, Luke had a different person, so at least we have that disagreement.
Yeah, we're guessing there, I think, and it's just so that everyone knows, we don't actually confer when we do this. Like, we do this on our own and come
absolutely not
certain conclusions. So it's
because I think if we did confer, we'd at least try and make it slightly different.
Yeah,
copy it, but not the exact.
Yeah, you couldn't write this, but it's it's fairly unanimous, and like you said, and I think it was such a. We were talking about this off camera, it was a very solid start to last year, and it really tailed off badly at the end.
It nosedived so badly at the end of the year, but I mean, I think just things conspired against the boxing world, and
it shot itself in the foot, and there's no two ways about it. They all shot themselves in the foot with the Conor Benn, Eubank nonsense, the constant inactivity of the top fighters. There's only one elite level fighter that had more than 2 fights last year. It's pathetic. And then the fact that Crawford Spence didn't happen.
Yeah, that was really disappointing, because that was really going to kind of the thing that was supposed to set the winter light.
Fury Joshua, that was allegedly in talks, didn't happen. We ended up with Fury Chisora. It was a nonsense. So last
Fury
year
Joshua was never happening.
No, of course
Fury was never going to. I mean, for a guy that was willing to fight in December, he's now not fighting till the 1st of April.
So
that was never happening.
This was my thing. So we were talking about this, and they were talking about how AJ needs to be more active, right? He had 1 fight last year. Remember correctly, he had 2 the year before. He won the year before, I think it is. And then they were talking about, right, let's get him out, let's get him active. Right, we'll get him out in December. It didn't happen. Fine, we'll get him out early next year. The 1st of April. The 1st of April.
I mean, that's the second quarter.
Anyway, that's it. So that's a moan for another time. We'll move on.
Absolutely. Right. So I think we're kind of going to the big ones now. So I think KO is next.
Yeah, so KO of the year.
And I think this is going to be unanimous as well.
I'm saying this is going to be consensus. I think this is going to be unanimous as well. And I think Michael might actually like this one being a bit more unanimous.
Yes, indeed, he might.
Yeah, I think he might like this. I have Joe Cordina versus Ogawa in one of the most iconic moments in British boxing for recent times. That right hand was special. It was one of those ones you'll go back to again and again and again, and there was no give or tell. It was an absolutely spectacular.
Exactly, and it was executed so perfectly from a guy who's just not known for his. He was an excellent amateur boxer, excellent stylish boxer. But the one thing he was always criticised of, he'd no finishing, and to then get knockout of the year. I mean, it was brilliant, and it was just the corkscrew uppercut as well. It was excellent.
Oh, it was fantastic. Beautiful right hand over the top, and I really liked it. I mean, the other worthy contenders were Caleb Plant, knocking Durrell out with a fabulous left hook, and then probably another one that we're going to talk about, I think, quite soon is another one for there. But those are I thought it was a fairly clear one. I think that was one of the more. When I think about the knockouts, and it's like these proper one-punch moments where I'm like, oh my God, I didn't see it coming. That's what springs to mind.
Because in fairness to the other one, I didn't think it was a knockout.
Yeah.
It was a succession of things that happened.
Yeah.
Whereas this was a proper knockout.
Boom. Done, out, and phenomenal. And funnily enough, Luke agrees. Luke has Cordina as the knockout of the year as well.
Yeah, I wonder who Stephen has. He might be a little bit busy. He hasn't put in his knockout of the year, but I'll shout out there, Stephen. You can throw that in when you have it. Right. Now we're moving to fight of the year.
Yep. This will be an interesting one. I have Wood Conlan. Who do you have?
I have, and this is a hill I'm willing to die on, and why I was willing to amalgamate the two is Taylor Serrano. I thought that was clearly fight of the year.
Yep.
What I didn't think Wood Conlan was so good was because it was scrappy and it was messy, and it wasn't as clinical as people made it out to be at all. Taylor Serrano for me was because Serrano had Taylor in trouble in the fifth, and Taylor dug deep, and instead of being defensive, she said "fuck that," and she went on the attack, and she clearly won the remainder of the rounds. And Serrano, obviously, her plan was to get her out, and when that didn't happen, she just had to reckon with Taylor for a lot longer, and Taylor then just did what Taylor does best. So for me, yes, Taylor Serrano is fight of the year, and Stephen agrees with me.
So I have Taylor Serrano as the female fight of the year as well. That's what I've got down.
Well, if you were having a male fight of the year, I probably would give it to Wood Conlan, but I have reservations about that fight. It's just
what they both have brilliantly is diverging dramas. So it's not a story going one way. So Wood Conlan, you come out, Conlan puts Wood on his backside and proceeds to ping him around the ring for a few rounds. Then slowly he comes back into it, but Conlan is still winning the majority of the rounds. And then, in the 10th, Conlan goes down, he gets up, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? Is he going to get him out there? And then the knockout is unbelievable. I thought it was brilliant.
But for me, Conlan looked concussed.
He did, yeah. But that's what happens when you get punched in the head.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Nobody seemed to notice that, or, it wasn't seemed to be commented on. It was like, because if you look at it, and I have seen that fight back a few times, I mean, Conlan was like, it was really unlike, say, the Cordina knockout, which came from it, the opponent was still combative. I wouldn't call Conlan combative when Wood knocked him out of the ring. He was concussed or semi-concussed as far as I was concerned.
Mad. But I thought, the Taylor Serrano one was exactly the same. Taylor starts well, Serrano comes back, she hurts her, puts it on her, and Katie digs deep at the end and comes back and wins it.
Yeah, but see, that's where it's not the same, because you had Taylor in control at the start, then you had Serrano imposing herself, but then Taylor came back. There was no comeback in the Wood Conlan fight. It was a tale of two halves, because Conlan had it early, and this claim, I ran out of gas. Well, when you get punched that hard by your opponent, you tend to get hurt. And I think it's a real giving your opponent no credit when you say, I ran out of gas. No, the gas was punched out of you.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Because it's not like that's exactly what it is. Wood did his job. Wood went to the body.
It's like people say, well, I got hurt. If I hadn't have got hurt, that's the whole raison d'etre of boxing. I mean, you're there to hurt your opponent. The KDs come how they may. But to say, I broke my arm. Well, no, he broke your arm or he broke your hand, and that's just it.
And that's it's the old saying of, if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle.
Yeah, but it's just one of these excuses I absolutely hate when they go, I just ran out of steam. Well, sometimes you can see it, and we see with some opponents, they do run out of steam. But I think it's very unfair when your opponent is putting that much pressure on you that you were absolutely fucked, to pardon my French. And I think that's what Lee Wood did to Michael Conlan. But
and he's in a brilliant fight. The Lara fight is going to be incredible. And
yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Talking about that.
I'm just going to pull Stephen's mention up here. If you missed my KO, it was Lee Wood. Yes, I didn't see that, but anyway, Lee Wood. Okay, yeah, Lee. So you went for Lee Wood instead of Cordina. That's fine. We have disagreement.
Yes.
Who did Luke go for?
Luke had fight of the year was Wood Conlan, and he had KO of the year was Cordina.
Okay, and but for sheer blue, oh sorry, scared the shit out of me. But for the sheer out of the blue, it would be Cordina. Sorry. So he does have that kind of split the difference as well. And fight of the year, he agrees with me there. Taylor Serrano.
So and did you? So if we move then on to the big one, which is fighter of the year.
Fighter of the year. So we have domestic and international, male and female.
So 4 awards here. 4 fighters. Did you? I take it you split them as well.
Yes, I did split them, and I mean, and then if you were to give one overall, I can say that at the end, male or female, that's just it. So we'll go with domestic, which is of course is UK and Ireland, because that's the whole thing. So your domestic male will go for.
So this was by far and away the most difficult award to give.
Yes.
I hate like this. I looked at it and I was like, it was a pretty dire year for males and men's boxing in the UK and Ireland. I thought major what? So I have 2 down here that I couldn't really pick between the 2. Now, Lee Wood was a candidate, but he only fought once. Great win, but he only fought once. The other guy I have down here lost, in inverted commas. And I think that's who Michael will have picked.
Well, I mean, he's won fighter of the year from Boxing News. If it
is who you think it is. So I mean, what I picked is Sonny Edwards. So I've picked Sonny Edwards as my fight of the year, largely based on the fact that the competition was rubbish, and I think Sonny had a really solid year, and he fought twice, looked good in both, and I think the Felix Alvarado was a really good win. But I think we should be sat here talking about Jack Castro being the fight of the year. Personally, I thought he beat Taylor, and I thought that's the best win. They beat the undisputed champion, in my opinion. And, they need to get that fight happened. I want to see Josh do well. Obviously, I want to see Josh do well. But I thought he lost that fight. I thought he lost. That was the worst call I saw last year that I can remember. I don't know if it's just the fact that
there was worse calls, but that was the most expensive.
Yeah, that's the one that stands out because it's the biggest. Like there were.
I mean, that was for all the belts, and it was like I think what happened there was I think Taylor just didn't cover himself in glory in that at all, and I did have him winning it on my scorecard by 1 round, but but I think Taylor is going to right a lot of wrongs in the replay.
I think Josh will win the rematch. But I think if Josh comes in fighting the way he thought, if he fights the way he fought the first time, he'll lose. If he fights the way he fought Prograis, he'll win, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. So my domestic fighter of the year, and I kind of did this on the fact that he didn't get fight of the year and he didn't get KO of the year. He did only fight once.
Yeah.
But he was fighting a bigger fight again. I think you'll find against the WBC, and that is Lee Wood. So Lee Wood got my domestic fighter of the year on the fact that it wasn't a big year performance-wise. I could see the Catterall reasons for giving it Catterall, but then that would me saying, well, actually, I was, whatever.
You'd be disagreeing with yourself.
No, not that I'd be disagreeing with myself. I mean, an underdog can get it because, Taylor's performance wouldn't give him fighter of the year anyway, had you winning or not, and even if okay, you won, but that you were not fighter of the year based on that performance. No. Whereas Lee Wood, I just thought on top of everything, on top of the Wukan one, I just thought, his dominant second half performance over Conlan just really cemented it for me. It would have been nice had he had that second fight in the year in Lara, and had he won that, he'd be easily fighter of the year.
Yeah, comfortably.
But we can't talk about ifs and buts. But on a technicality, which is ironic because that's kind of the way it is. I made Lee Wood my fighter of the year, domestic fighter of the year, because I felt that I just kind of he lost out on the other two, and I thought, well, I mean, just to have some recognition of his year.
He definitely deserves something out of all this.
Yeah. I'm one of those. I'm kind of like, yeah, let's spread it around. But no, not spread it around as such, but just let's not
recognition. He deserves that. That was an amazing fight and a brilliant performance.
Let's not completely kind of pretend it didn't exist. Now, didn't see enough domestic fights. Oh la la la. Right, so we haven't done the women yet, so I shouldn't have put that up. But anyway, let's have your domestic female fighter of the year.
Tasha Jonas. I thought there was two. Well, so there's three. I'm disqualifying one because I'm giving her another award.
Okay.
And then it's between Chantel Cameron and Tasha Jonas for me. Chantel won the undisputed title against Jessica McCaskill. Jessica was awful, but that was down to Chantel making her look bad. But Tasha, in a weight class that really she has no business being in, has won 3 belts in a year. That is absolutely mad. And fought 3 times. And that was on top of fighting late in 2021. I thought the on activity and what she won, it was comfortably Tasha Jonas.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Tasha Jonas, I think really, she said, right, I'm going after it, and she went for it, and she fought everyone. And I saw there this week she got the Ring Magazine belt as well. And so yeah, Tasha Jonas is kind of unanimous, I feel, and Stephen agrees.
She had the best fight, the best year of any boxer in the UK last year.
Absolutely, and she 100%. Deserves it because she has worked so hard for that, and she was just in a weight category which is very competitive in female boxing, but she kind of went, right, let's explore another avenue, and she went up a weight, which is obviously extremely difficult, went up more than one weight, and she just took everything that was there for her to take, and she deserves all the plaudits for that. So yeah, domestically, Natasha Jonas is my female fighter of the year.
Excellent.
So what had the other guys?
So if I get this up here, I don't think that Luke had one. He didn't have a domestic. He has a fighter of the year. If I can see. Yep, he has a fighter of the year, male and female, but he doesn't have domestics.
Okay.
So good. We've agreed. So we've agreed on nothing. Disagreed on nothing.
We're going to move on to. Have we not had a disagreement yet?
I don't think so. I think we might have disagreed on one thing on Taylor Serrano, but then I gave Taylor Serrano Fight of the Year for the women's.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So it's kind of splitting the difference. Yeah. Right. So we're moving on to international. So I think we're going to do female first.
Yep.
And then we'll do male. I think well, maybe here there might be disagreement in both of these categories, but I think the male might be the only one that there'll be disagreement, but I think 1 and 2 are nailed on. It's just the order you have them.
Yeah, it's
perhaps that's the same in the female.
For the male and females, there were 2 fighters that were up for it, in my opinion, for both. So and I've picked one, Luke's picked the other in the women's.
Fair enough.
So I've gone for Katie Taylor. I thought that in women's boxing, if we're going to talk about the best fighters, the 3 best fighters are Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, and Amanda Serrano. Those are your 3 best fighters. And Katie beat Amanda. Therefore, that's the best win. On top of her defense later in the year, I thought Katie was the fighter of the year for the women's. And you can call, we love Katie. So I know there's going to be accusations one way or another about this, but I can't get over how incredible that, for all we moan about last year, that is one of the iconic moments of last year. It was fantastic.
Well, that's why it was fighter of the year for me. And, again, like Clarissa Shields was in contention, but I do feel that her opponent was talked up far more than her talent was, whereas Serrano is genuine female pound for pound queen, and Taylor is the pound for pound queen, and they fought, and Taylor won. So Taylor deserves the laurels and the credits. So my international female, just female overall, I suppose, because was Katie Taylor probably her last year anyway. But I don't. Natasha Jonas can quote all she wants, but I don't think her victory was as impressive as Katie Taylor versus Serrano. I mean, it wasn't even in the running for any fight of the year. So that's where we are. And Stephen, Stephen has again has come in with us, and there we are now. So we're going to now go on to the big one. It is the International Male Fighter of the Year.
Yeah.
Again, it was such a low, because the top contenders fought so infrequently and the level of opponent wasn't that good. I thought it was a very sparse year.
Yep.
But there was two standouts for me, and I'm sure they're going to be for you, but I'll let you go ahead first because I'm just like that.
Thank you very much. So for me, when I'm looking for fighter of the year, I look at who did they fight, who did they beat, what's the context, and how often did they fight. And how did they do it? Who did they beat? How did they do it? How often did they fight? What's the context and what we're looking at? And for me, that means that the fighter of the year is Jesse Bam Rodriguez. If we remember where Jesse was this time last year, we were talking about Jesse as a prospect, right? Prospect to contender. He steps up in 2 weeks' notice and fights one of the four princes of the lower weight class in Carlos Cuadras. He then beats one of the best fighters you could wish to see, maybe a bit old, maybe a bit past it, but in Siriketso Rungvisai, and knocks him out. Chocolatito didn't do that. Estrada didn't do that. Bam knocked him out. It was absolutely incredible. He then had a harder fight. I think it was on the Canelo Golovkin undercard.
It was.
That's a certain gentleman who I'm sure will talk us through it in a bit more detail. And we were hoping to get a fourth. We didn't quite get a fourth, but 3 fights across a year, 3 quality opponents. That is what we are. The only other fighter to talk about on this list is obviously the man who beat Canelo himself, Dimitri Bivol. Bivol, fantastic win against Canelo, fantastic win against Ramirez. The difference for me is Jesse had that third fight and beat a quality opponent. And I think if you look at it, Canelo was pound for pound number 1, was absolutely brilliant, and he was just stepping up out of his comfort zone. Jesse was the one that was doing that. So that was the difference. You know, I'm not having a go at Bivol for punching down. I'm not saying that, but Jesse was punching up, and that's where it's gone for me. So the context is key. So I've got Jesse Bam Rodriguez, as does Luke.
Okay, and that's very good. And this is where we disagree, funnily enough. But Jesse Bam Rodriguez is my number 2. For all the reasons you said there, and I did see him in the flesh, and maybe this counts my opponent because that night he wasn't as impressive as he previously had been. However, it was still a very good performance, you know, for the amount of times.
Gonzalez was good.
Yeah,
Gonzalez was very
for
good.
the amount of times he fought that year as well. I mean, like I think, you know, all credit to him. Why I'm going for, no surprise, it's Dimitri Bivol, is because, like, I mean, people are going, I mean, this was upset of the year for some people. And I've said, how was that an upset? You know, but apparently it was. But he's absolutely dominant display against Canelo. And, you know, he just smashed everything there. And his performance, his 2 performances were excellent. He's the guy now everyone wants to see next year. He's the, you know, he's the fighter that people want. You know, they want Berbatov and Bivol as the biggest fighter next year. Well, obviously, if Usyk and Fury fight. That will be officially the biggest fight of the year. But for me, it would be if Bivol and Berbatov fight. That would be the fighters' fight of the year for me.
That's what I would want to see.
Absolutely. So yes, I am on that. I'm giving it to Dimitri Bivol, but Bam is a very close second place. But
And
And
that's
Stephen
literally
has gone
exactly
with
what I
Bam
went.
as well. So there you go. There was a tiny bit of disagreement there, but I wouldn't even like. I mean, if we were to pick, well, you have to have one for the channel. I would have no hesitation in going absolutely Bam deserves it. You know what I mean? Because the majority is spoken, and it's so close that I wouldn't need to feel to need to fight the corner for
No.
Bivol in that respect. But absolutely, it was a no-brainer there for Stephen as well between the two, and he went for Bam, which is absolutely what Bam did last year was sensational. You know, I suppose it's kind of that, you know, king of the castle thing. I suppose is where I have Bivol out on top, and
Beat the man to beat the man.
Yeah, he ruled out Charlie Usyk because they only fought once, and Usyk was just.
So did Spence, so did Crawford. Like you could
Yeah.
just go through this. It's not good enough.
Yeah, and Usyk's was a rematch as well, so you know it wasn't anything to write home about.
Not his fault. That was down to AJ. That wasn't on Usyk.
Oh, I know, but I mean,
the reality is he fought once. This year, 2 questions for you, and then we'll go. Right?
Okay.
What would you like from boxing next year? And if you had to pick one fighter who you'd be like, they'll be a world champion this time next year, who would you pick?
Right.
Because I want to remind everyone, because I don't want anyone to forget this, Andy Clark, the venerable Andy Clark, who knows one of the best pundits, one of the best commentators in the game, picked Chris Eubank Jr. this time last year on the ID Boxing. So ID Boxing did this. ID Boxing did this. Like, this is who I think will be this. And Andy picked Chris Eubank. And for a very, very intelligent man, that was a very broke opinion. So,
well,
I'm going to.
Do you not think it was? Well, Chris Eubank was fighting under the Sky banner, so it was obviously he was kind of his arm. He was picking a home fighter to try and boost his.
Andy left Sky about that time. He's only just come back. Because remember, he dropped off because they were doing it with Adam Smith and Tasha for a while.
Right. So sorry, I was trying to buy time there and I didn't.
Yes, you were thinking. I could clearly see it.
I'll give you my answer into your conversation. Sorry. What were the 2 things again?
2 questions. What would you like from boxing, just in general, next year? And if you had to pick one fighter, male or female, that you're like, right, they will be a world champion this time next year. Who are you picking?
So they can't have been champion already?
No. Well, if they cannot be a champion right now, so they can win a belt again, but they cannot be champion right now.
Okay. Well, so, I'll start for the wish list because that's just easier. What I want to see this year is I want to see just, and I know this is a real wish list, but it's I just want to see better fights across the year and the whole year, you know, that it's not just punctuated into 1 or 2 kind of super fights and then half the year's missing, as we found with the second half of
not May and December as it normally is
2021 because of the Eubank Ben fiasco, etc. So I'd rather see I'd rather see that. People say about unification fights, that's nice and all that, but I'd rather see fights that are kind of more well matched than just having unification for the sake of unification. I mean, if you want to talk about a unification fight, we can look at a man who didn't even get a look in this year.
Inoue.
Yes, the four belt champion from Japan, Inoue. I mean, because at the end of the day, it was nothing there, and he just had to fight, you know, a guy that fell into the WBO title, and basically ran for, was it 9 rounds?
10 rounds, yeah.
You know, and got caught in round 10. So not necessarily always unification, but definitely I'd like to see more better fights matched up, and Inoue moving up and fighting. What's the chap he's
Fulton and Akhmadaliev. MJ. He's fighting MJ and Fulton.
Yeah, they're the fights that I'd like to see there. Domestically, what I would like to see is what we did have was Matchroom kind of went off the boil domestically. I think Sky can really push this if they want, but more better, well-matched fights domestically for British titles, that can kind of go on a Sky Saturday show and boost the profile of them, and well-matched fights like to bring on that, and better cards as well. Not a case where a promoter just has all his stable against mediocre and poor opposition, but he said, "Oh, it's a stacked card. It's only stacked on one side,"
Yeah.
So, but again, they're not likely to happen because that's just not how business works. So that's my wish for who will be.
Yep.
I'm going to wait on that champion. I'm going to let you do that, and I'm going to come back with my champion.
Robeisy Ramirez. That's my pick. That's why he's the. As far as, in my opinion, I think Robeisy is probably the best featherweight out there and is yet to win a title. So that's quite a bold claim. But I think Robeisy is fantastic, and I expect him to win a. Should he get a shot? I expect him to get a shot this year. Will win the world title. And I simply want to see activity. That's what I want to see them fight more. You can't have a sport where your best. You wouldn't have it in football where Man United are playing once a year. Liverpool it doesn't build. Liverpool once a year. Arsenal once a year. Like, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in baseball. It doesn't happen in American football. It doesn't happen in bloody cricket. It doesn't happen in rugby. Why are we doing this?
It'd be difficult to compare, but even if you look at something like combat sports in UFC and other ones, they're not even as infrequent as.
Or even like if you look at single sports, right, where it's just the participants. So say like if it's running, it's swimming, it's cycling, where it's a singular participant that matters. They are fighting running, competing regularly. Yes, it doesn't take the same toll, but as we keep saying, if you fight regularly, the camps aren't as long, the number of sparrings aren't as long. You don't have to take the weight off, right? Less injuries. Yeah. It's just it's that activity. Like I want to see Josh Taylor, Jamel Charlo, Errol Spence, Terence Crawford, Alexander Usyk, Bivol, Canelo. I want to see these guys 2, 3, 4 times a year, because realistically, if you have a 12-week camp and a fight and a break, you can fit in 3 fights. 12 weeks, 3 months, fight, rest. 12 weeks, 3 months, fight, rest. So 3 12-week camps, 36 weeks. You still have like another, 16 weeks to play with? Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Who would you pick to win?
Well, I suppose you did say Robeisy Ramirez, and that's a very good call. And, wouldn't disagree with you at all. I'm just going to say Stephen there. Stephen has come in with more unification fights, and Callum Smith, which is another good shout even.
That's a hard one for Callum though. He's got to fight. He's got to fight Beterbiev for that title.
But it could,
definitely could happen. Smith
but no, a title could come loose, and he could pick it up. It's like when like what happened with Taylor when he shed his titles, then they became available to fight for.
It all happened at bantamweight, where now Inoue's gone.
Yeah, Inoue's gone, so you'll have all those bantamweight contenders up there. So yeah, Robeisy Ramirez. Can Lee Wood win a genuine title, or I don't think he's been officially upgraded by the.
He's officially upgraded. Yeah, it was a few weeks ago. But he's officially been upgraded.
Can he have another title? I suppose he could. So there you go. I'll say a second title for Lee Wood, but that's cheating because he hasn't. He has one. I know, Adam, but I think by the end of the year, if it's timed right, he could.
Yeah, Smith. Yeah, he's talking about Smith.
Yes. So Callum Smith, Robeisy Ramirez, I think are 2 excellent picks, and I'm still really not giving a name, but I'm going to say Robeisy Ramirez as well, and that's really chickening out. What did Luke have?
That was a question that came off the top of my head.
Okay.
That was just one that came to mind.
If I had a little bit longer to think about it,
Sorry for springing that on you.
Well, Robeisy would have been because I was, it was a person who was talking to during the year, and he is a person that is on my list. But if I go and think about it and come back, I can perhaps give a better answer. But Robesi is absolutely one that would be on the top of my list
Come back
for winning this year.
to us next week.
Come
back to us with it next week.
Next week. That's wishful thinking.
That's it. But yes.
Okay, well, anyway, thanks for that. And that largely, oh my God, the amount of back and forth and disagreements and hair pulling that we went through for that. But thanks for that, Adam.
Michael will be furious when he watches this.
Thanks, Stephen, for giving your input Stephen. As well. Luke for giving his to Adam, and Michael, where are you? Anyway, take care until the next time. Slán.
See you later.